Hey there, and welcome to GamePoints, a weekly little get-together. We talk about gaming news. I'm, as always, your host, Stephen Brown, and joining me today is...
I'm David.
Hey, David. Tonight,
Excited to be.
tonight we are going to go over EA's very, very bad week, fake death threats, Disney getting involved, why I'm pissed off at the Rampage movie, and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Oh man, the fact that you're going to talk about the Rampage movies is specifically entertaining to me.
Real Pie Master, nice to see you again. I was wondering where you went. Yeah, I do try to mention PST in the tweets that go out, but I know time zones can kind of be a bitch sometimes.
Well, before we get into the just complete and utter nonsense, have you been playing anything good recently? What have you been doing?
What have I been doing? A lot of Mario Odyssey. A lot of Mario Odyssey.
How you doing with those hat jumps?
I suck at them.
Yeah,
I have technically beaten the game. I have defeated Bowser. By the way, he's the final boss. Spoilers for an obvious answer there. I know. Weird, huh?
You ruined it for me.
But I still only have like 200 some odd moons, or are they moon? Yeah, they're moons this time around out of 999. Right? So there's a lot of that game still left.
That's insane. You pick up the Horizon expansion yet?
Not yet. I need to. It's on the list of stuff I need to do.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
Anyways, this is GamePoints episode 113. Thank you for joining us. If you happen to be watching us live, we do stream here every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at twitch.tv/GamePoints. And please feel free to join in the chat. Questions, comments, concerns, or whatever the hell you want to talk about. Join the conversation. It's kind of the point of this podcast. If you can't join us live, feel free to check out our YouTube page. Just type in GamePoints, one word, we pop right up there. And comment, like, subscribe, and do all that stuff there too. Regardless of where you're at, feel free to join in the conversation. David. Really, the only news of big importance last week was this EA's clusterfuck handling of Star Wars Battlefront.
Yes.
A whole bunch of stories are going to be tied, that we're going to go over today, are going to be tied to this one game.
Because it's been 2 weeks of just, Battlefront talk, basically. Yeah. So we're going to cover some more of what happened in the aftermath since that game actually came out.
Yeah.
Before, it was everyone being really mad about EA and saying, oh, let's boycott them or let's make Disney mad and let's see what we can do. And I'm not going to say that they're shutting EA down, but something happened.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start?
We're going to deviate a little bit differently than what we normally do, right? Normally we go one story, talk about it, and then go to the next story and talk about it. But since all of this relates to one game, we're just going to go chronologically, because some of these stories take place over a couple of days.
Okay, that's fair.
So you're going to get a whole bunch of stuff kind of mixed up together. So yeah, let's start last week on Tuesday after the show ended.
Okay.
On Tuesday, the game launches for people who pre-ordered the $80 version, that deluxe digital edition. They essentially get 3 days access. We bitched about how they're not really getting early access. It's just they delayed the release of the game for everyone else. Because who the fuck launches on a Friday?
Nobody.
And
except
there was all
Bethesda.
Yeah, but in Nintendo. I mean, I don't want to say Friday's getting more common, but this time of year it is. There was all those allegations of, hey, it's going to take 6 months straight to play to unlock hero characters, so they responded by cutting the prices of them. A whole bunch of a whole bunch of changes happened to the game right before it came out, which is why my review got delayed, because the EA kept fucking with this game throughout this entire week, as you're going to hear. And yeah, so EA was already starting to respond to the scuttlebutt by Tuesday. They lowered the cost of heroes down by 75%, but the rumor was they also lowered how much you get for rewards by 75%, but it might have been only what you get for finishing the campaign.
They did reduce the campaign rewards by 75%.
Yeah, there was a lot of people accusing things left and right. Some of it was true, some of it wasn't. And additionally, during all of this, there was a Twitter user who had in his bio, in his Twitter bio, a game dev at EA. And he was talking about Battlefront 2's launch and being pretty open about it. Way more open than you would expect a game developer to be. And then he started sharing all these death threats. He said he got like 7 specific death threats and 1,300 harassment comments over the past 24 hours about Battlefront. And because of this spurred a bunch of outlets, including USA Today, the BBC, and most notoriously, in my opinion, Vice, to make a bunch of editorials about death threats. In what you're seeing right now, here's the article from Patrick Klepek. Being upset at a game developer doesn't give you an excuse to harass them is the name of the title of the article. And he's right. We can agree on that.
Yeah,
right?
I'm totally fine. We've talked about this several times. I think at this point, you could probably make a clip show of me just saying, stop being an asshole to people on the internet.
Yeah, don't be a dick. Death threats suck. Don't fucking do them. We all understand that. And I think we all also understand that of the hundreds of thousands of people complaining about Battlefront's pay-to-win system, it is literally less than 20 people that are being an ass and sending death threats when the stuff happens. Or any game. We'll put in any game here. It is like 0.001% of the overall community.
It's a very, very small amount. A lot of people are mad, but not everybody's that mad where they just start telling people to do horrible things.
But all these articles came out on Tuesday, and I'm using Klepek's here as the example because I found this to be the most egregious one. Because if you read this article, he essentially kind of makes the claim that people aren't really outraged at the game. They're just looking to send death threats. In fact, there's a quote from the article itself says, often moments like this act as a smokescreen to enable serial harassers. What? Okay, you're talking about, let's take in all the harassers, all of them. Not just death threats that people say you suck, you're a dick, I'm going to dox you, whatever. That's maybe 10%.
Never buying your game.
Yeah.
Boycotting your company.
That's maybe, what, 10%?
Sure. I have no idea. There's a lot of people on Twitter. I can't tell you exactly what all.
Fair enough. But this is not the vast majority of people who are actually giving like legit, real criticism, going, "Hey, we have issues with this game."
Yeah, and there's criticism. A lot of people have very well worded arguments about it.
Yeah, let's not also confuse criticism with harassment, which is far too often done with some of these people. You say, "Hey, I don't like this." Sometimes the response is, "Stop harassing me." It's like, no, I just said I didn't like this. Klepek's article goes on to just essentially paint everyone who is complaining about Battlefront's pay-to-win system as being the same rejects from the Gamergate days, and that they're just using this to lash out at developers they don't like. They really don't have points to make. And it's like, motherfucker, no. Stop saying the death threats are the story here. The death threats are a small minority of trolls who feed on you writing articles like this. The story here is that a lot of people rose up against what EA was doing and said, enough. And it made mainstream media was covering it because of it. But read the article. The tone of it is extremely tone deaf, especially since he doubles down later on Twitter and people start confronting him about this and goes, "Oh, you're just there's one tweet in particular, I can't remember what it was, but he essentially uses gamer as a pejorative, which drives me nuts because he works for a magazine designed to be read by gamers."
Well, one thing is we can kind of continue, and I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. So a bunch of stuff happened on Wednesday, but one of the things that also happened is Jason Schreier, who we mention all the time because he's a really good news finding person, wrote an article about this exact Twitter person. We don't need to name him because he doesn't need to be famous, because it's pretty probable that he doesn't work for EA at all.
Yeah, let me go ahead and bring that article.
Jason Schreier went really, really in depth on what this guy was talking about. It went through his profile, realized that a lot of the photos he had were actually photos just publicly available online or that EA had posted. There was no good information on what this guy actually did at EA. He tried to contact him for further information. He didn't actually get a response after he sent out this contact info. The guy actually removed all mentions of EA from his Twitter bio.
Yeah, he was caught.
So, yeah, basically he was caught just lying, saying, "Hey, I work for EA and all this stuff is so bad that I'm getting death threats," which it is entirely possible people that work for EA got some death threats or other heinous things were thrown their way, because there is a very small subset of people that get very, very unrealistically angry or just like to troll people on the internet.
Yeah.
I think it tends to lean that way.
And that happens with, like people change the gun speed on Counter-Strike, and that poor son of a bitch gets death threats. We've established those people fucking suck.
Yeah, and so he'll just throw stuff out like this all the time. They don't care. They don't think of it. They lack empathy or whatever proper emotion they
They
need
think
to.
it's funny. They want the attention.
Yeah, but talking about wanting attention, we have a certain Twitter user that's also kind of bandwagoning, jump on all this hate against EA and saying, "Hey, I work for EA, and everyone's hating on me," and blah blah blah. But he was just jumping on.
Yeah, he made it
He
all up.
didn't work there at all. It's all
Schreier's
fake.
investigation essentially proves that the guy that that USA Today, BBC, fucking Patrick Klepek's article on Vice were saying, oh, look at this EA dev that's getting death threats. He didn't even work there to begin with.
All of those articles are completely unfounded.
Yeah, the bare bones amount of journalism by just reaching out to the guy and asking, hey, I have some questions for you, was not done. All these articles were written because they wanted to portray all gamers as assholes. Because it gets clicks. Due diligence wasn't done, and they fucking...
When are we gonna be cooler in the media?
They spread fucking fake news. This is fake news. This is what Donald Trump has been warning us about.
Oh God, I don't know why.
The more infuriating thing. Let me go back to the Klepek's article here. The most infuriating thing of it all is rather than taking this article down, rather than removing it, rather than putting a massive retraction on it, there's just this.
We're saying, hey, it turns out this was false information, and I need to talk about this a completely different way.
There's this little update here that was updated on Wednesday and says the following. A Kotaku investigation reveals the developer mentioned here may not work for EA. If true, it changes the setup of this story, but given the near daily instance of harassment against developers, streamers, and even fans, the idea of policing their own community still remains relevant. Motherfucker, that is not what the argument is about. That is not what your article is about. The entire article is pivoted around this one Battlefront story. This is not an article about devs face harassment every day. Here are the examples. Your entire premise for your fucking article is based on a lie. Retract it, issue an apology, and if you want to get this message out, write a brand new editorial about horrible things that happen to fans and streamers and devs. That's fine. But the entirety of this article is wrapped around a lie. And instead of retracting it, instead of saying, hey, I fucked this one up, I'm sorry, you fucking double down and go, well, it still happens to other people. Since this could be true, I'm going to keep it. You can say you're fucking wrong. I admit that I'm wrong all the goddamn time. It doesn't mean that the other side, those evil gamers, win. The only thing that matters is the goddamn truth, and you're fucking deflecting that here. It is such a bullshit move. God, it pisses me off.
I'm annoyed at it, but you're just so ridiculously upset at this guy.
I'm ridiculously upset at this guy.
I get what he's doing in the sense, but he just wants page clicks. He just wants people to read his articles.
I'm upset at this guy because this is one of those reasons why we get like that Law and Order SVU episode about the gamers at the convention stalking some female game developer. It's like, this is, yes, horrible things happen with less than like 10% of the hobby. These people don't fucking speak for me, so don't say that we're all bad.
That's fair.
Yeah, I am a gamer. I am fucking proud to admit that. The people who send death threats are assholes, so when you write an article saying all gamers are fucking assholes, I'm gonna go, fuck you. They don't speak for me. They're dicks. Say they are assholes. Stop painting with these broad fucking brushes. It is why discourse is so fucking toxic, and you can't have any dialogue with anyone anymore. But
that's pretty true. But speaking of having dialogue with people,
not yet. I have to mention this.
You're still mad?
No, okay, I have to mention this.
He's got to get through it
to show that we are not hypocrites and that I am accusing Klepek of not reaching out. We here at GamePoints, I emailed Klepek personally when it became clear about that story was wrong and that we were going to be talking about it on Monday. Much like we do with Jonathan Holmes, back when the whole Jonathan Holmes, Destructoid, Alex Mallor, Star Mazer thing was going on, I emailed him a bunch of questions asking about editorial standards at Vice, did he reach out to this Twitter user at all, did he speak with him in DMs at all?
Did he do any amount of actual research?
What was the amount of due diligence that was involved in this? And he never got back to me. Okay. Don't read any malice into that. I'm just stating that I did reach out to him. We received no reply. He could be busy. He might not have seen the email. He might actually have contract stipulations in place that keep him from speaking to us about it. Or he could just saw that and went, this is a fucking trap. I'm not going to do any of it. No malice should be read into the fact that he didn't reply at all. But I do want to go on record as saying, yeah, I did reach out to him to get his side of the story and what goes on behind creating this kind of editorial. He just did not respond.
Which means he's not here to defend himself, so you can go ahead and keep being mad at him.
Like I said, I just needed to get that part out because I don't.
You feel a little better?
I don't want someone saying, "Well, you didn't fucking talk to Patrick to get his side of the story." It's like, no, actually, I did reach out through a couple of different avenues. Just no word. Wasn't blocked, but no word.
Yeah, well.
Speaking of opening a dialogue,
there we go. Segues. So other things that happened on Wednesday is those Star Wars Battlefront 2 devs decided to go to Reddit for an AMA. That's a popular thing. A lot of people do those, right? Ask me anything. I want to show up online, and you guys can ask all the questions you want about, me or my product or whatever's going on. So we're EA guys. We're DICE guys. We're going to talk about this video game that you all seem to have some concerns with. And then I'm just going to jump right to the number. They proceeded to answer 30 questions.
Yep. Kind of small for some AMAs, but not as small as it could be.
I mean, there was 3 or 4 of them there, right?
There was 3 of them. 3 developers from DICE, and you assume a couple moderators and stuff. Maybe more than a couple.
And I believe it went for like 3 hours.
Yeah. In fact, they even mentioned that it went so well that they even mentioned, hey, these guys are actually answering the questions. It's just they're getting downvoted so fast. Because remember, this is fresh on the heels of the EA community member having the most downvoted Reddit reply of all time.
Yeah. There was a lot of questions asked. Some of them were just general questions that they answered great. Like, how does the cosmetic system work? How does Galactic Conquest work? How's the offline progression? Yada, yada. When people got to the big questions, the serious questions, the questions that everyone was angry about, for the most part, they were either routinely ignored or were given just vague textbook business speak replies. Like, we're looking into it. So when asked, hey, is your game predatory in the way that it's trying to force all these microtransactions on its customers, even though you know that it's a AAA Star Wars game and it's going to sell like gangbusters if you get it half right? You could have made your money back on it, but you're still forcing this on us. Do you have any thoughts? And they just don't.
Yeah, that one specifically came from Jim Sterling, internet personality, does the Jimquisition. I actually like him quite a bit. And it was clearly like, it had 14.2 thousand upvotes. Clearly people wanted this answered, and they didn't even bother to address it. The full question is as follows. And admittedly, it's actually very snarky. If I was a developer, I don't know if I would have said anything about it either. Anyways, the full question is, do you not feel loot box design is inherently predatory by nature? They exploit addiction and encourage at least the simulated feel of gambling despite the lack of legal definition. Is this not a concern for the industry going forward? What exactly prompted you to take Battlefront 2 on a path that was inevitably going to be slammed as, quote, a pay-to-win experience? Did you not feel it was particularly insulting to try to make so much money from this game after the first Battlefront was admittedly rushed and incomplete? They say that games are too expensive to make, and that's why they need a season passes, DLC, deluxe editions, microtransactions, loot boxes, to say nothing of merchandise, tax breaks, and sponsorship deals. As an aside, I didn't even think about that. Because a lot of these companies do get tax breaks. A lot of these companies do get sponsorship deals. Don't forget Mountain Dew and Doritos and all that good stuff. Pizza rolls for Destiny, I think, was the fun one there for a little bit. Going on. Can you honestly tell me that a Star Wars game was too expensive to make? That you couldn't have made a Star Wars game, as in a game about Star Wars, and that it could not conceivably sell enough to make its money back without all these additional monetization strategies? Should you be in this business if you cannot affordably conduct business? That's the snark right there. That's that Sterling snark he's known for. So it's kind of rough to say that, oh, they didn't answer that because that question does kind of come off a little bitchy. But the fact that they did not address any of that, I think speaks volumes to what these devs feel. What say you,
Yeah.
David?
I actually really liked the way he worded that and asked the question. I really went kind of deep following all the additional comments from everybody else who's like, yeah, this is the question that needs to be answered. This is the thing that they're going to ignore the most. Them ignoring this probably tells us more than any answer they could have. Um, it's just at most all we were going to get from it is a we're looking into it, because there's no safe way for them to answer the question. Much like Klepek wasn't going to answer you because he doesn't need to or doesn't
Yeah,
want
I
to.
mean, well, see that's Jonathan Holmes didn't need to either. He took the time out and actually wrote a very long,
Yeah.
detailed post about it. So,
And there's plenty of companies that can release games that have loot boxes or things like this that don't have any pay to win. It's purely cosmetic. We've talked about that. It doesn't really bother us that much. This is the path they've chosen. They are trying to get the most money they can out of this game, and they don't really have any remorse for it. The only reason they're upset about it at all, at least in my opinion, and probably a whole bunch of other people on Reddit's opinion, is because they're getting an amount of backlash. Because Disney's upset at them because their stock is actually going down. That's the
yes,
only reason they care.
absolutely.
If it wasn't for this amount of backlash, they would have just even still, they might not care at all. They're just going to let it go and see how well it sells. And if it sells even anywhere near the target number, because there's a holiday coming up and there's plenty of people that just don't care. They don't read games journalism. They don't need to. Like, they just own a console or they're a parent, and it doesn't matter. Here's the new Star Wars game. They're buying it.
The vast majority of parents who are buying this game, or people who are buying this game, buy 2 games a year. They don't know about any of this controversy, and they probably don't even care. Excuse me, I have the hiccups all of a sudden. But you mentioned stock and Disney and all that. That's going to lead us to Friday. On Friday, Disney got an earful of all this controversy brewing, and they called up EA. They were not happy, from what I can tell. Let me see if I can find the right article here. Where is it? That's not it. I think it was this one. Forgive me if it's not. So yeah, Disney calls up EA and goes, "What the fuck's going on with Star Wars?" 2 hours later, there's this post goes up on Battlefront's blog from Oscar Gabrielson, who's the GM of DICE. He's the grand poobah there. And it says the following: "Thank you to everyone in our community for being the passionate fans that you are. Our goal has always been to create the best possible game for all of you, devoted Star Wars fans and game players alike. We've also had ongoing commitment to constantly listen, tune, and evolve the experience as it grows. You've seen this with both the major adjustments and polish we have made over the past several weeks. But as we approach the worldwide launch, it is clear that many of you feel there are still challenges in the design. We have heard the concerns about potentially giving players unfair advantages, and we've heard that this is overshadowing an otherwise great game. This was never our intention. Sorry we didn't get this right. We hear you loud and clear, so we're turning off all in-game purchases. We will now spend more time listening, adjusting, and balancing and tuning. This means that the option to purchase crystals in the game is now offline, and all progression will be earned through gameplay. The ability to purchase crystals in-game will become available at a later date, only after we made changes to the game. We will share more details with this as we work through this." Essentially, Disney called up the EA and said, "How do people hate Star Wars?" And someone at EA went, "Well, we're trying out these new revenue streams." And they just went, "Shut up. Take out the things that are making people hate Star Wars." And they went, "Okay."
Yep. But they're only taking them out for now.
Yeah.
They definitely mentioned the fact that they can come back at a later date. They wanted to make sure that it had sales to meet any amount of the targets when it's coming out. Chances are they will let the game go without any kind of extra transactions, currency, whatever. I'd say until the holiday, right when they have like the biggest push for sales, and then December 28th.
Sometime in July, sometime in January 2018, you will see these turn back on. That is my guess. And it will be business as normal, because by then the controversy would have died down. I do not trust EA to really make many changes to this. I still think that in the end, this game is going to be pay to win. That's just how I feel about it. Disney has to be pissed at EA, right? Because think about the past few weeks with EA and Star Wars games specifically. Battlefront comes out, and you have the BBC and USA Today going, hey, people are sending death threats about the new Battlefront game. That's already not a good look. It's like, yeah, gamers are kind of assholes according to those stories, and they're getting death threats, but you still don't want that tied with your game. It's like, well, what's so bad about death threats? Or what's so bad about this game that they're getting death threats over? At least people who read the headlines would think that. Then you get news that, like, Belgium is starting to look into loot boxes and gambling, and all it takes is for USA Today to run the headline, new Star Wars game is targeting kids with gambling. And that's it. That you have not just fucking tanked that game, you have tarnished the Star Wars brand.
Yep.
Additionally, you have the scuttlebutt coming out around Visceral's closure, and that the Star Wars game they were making was a fucking dumpster fire. And that's getting pawned off to someone else. So Disney has to be looking at EA thinking, what the fuck are you doing with our brand?
Yeah.
Because these are
Which
big
is kind of what the hope was for all
Yeah.
the people that were actually boycotting the game and constantly sending tweets out and throwing in the at Disney tag so that they were aware of the fact that this backlash is over a property they own, and people are really pissed at EA.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
in case Disney forgot that 2 years in a row, EA won worst company in America.
Back
Wow.
in 2012 and 2013. So they actually kind of
back to
turned that
back.
around a little bit.
Yeah.
At
But it
least
is
they weren't the worst
something that-
company anymore.
In the internet's mind, was fairly recent.
Yeah.
Even though that seems counterproductive. because we have a
5 years,
very
4
short
years.
attention span.
4 years at internet time is a fucking century. But the internet never forgets. That's the other half of the idea there. So whenever they can roll something out to punch someone that they hate over it, they will. Either way, damage is being done to Star Wars overall as a name because of the shit EA is pulling. It's starting to hurt them beyond a brand. And Disney wasn't happy about it, and they kind of went, fucking stop fucking up. I have to wonder what the details of their contract is. I believe they signed the exclusivity for 10 years. I want to say 4 years ago at the EA. I'm not positive on that. Are there ways for Disney to back out of that? Can they threaten EA to go, we're fucking pulling every license on there? Because think about what EA is making right now. They have their sports games and what? What other big game is EA making that their sports game, beyond their sports game, that isn't a Star Wars game? You assume the next Dragon Age is being developed through BioWare. But what else?
I don't. Need for Speed, which also
I
has
classify
its own...
that as part of their sports games, and Payback is a train wreck.
Yeah. Besides their year releases, I don't know what the hell they're doing.
And it's starting to show.
Buying and shutting down companies. Is that a game release?
Maybe. But all this is starting to show. Once EA announced they're pulling out the microtransactions, their stock fucking plummeted. Let me, actually, I think it's this one right here. This is a 5-day graph of EA stock. And as you can see, on November 17th, it fucking plummets. And it is still going down as of 3:45 today when the market's closed for the most part. Things are not good at that company over this. It is really, really starting to bite them in the ass. And they've reached too far, too hard. And additionally, one more piece of information to talk about this is that on Sunday, sales figure for the UK, the United Kingdom sales of Battlefront came out last night. And they're not painting a good picture. That's not the right This isn't it. What am I looking for here? I don't have it up.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Anyways, long story short, they're down 50% compared to Battlefront 1, which was EA's big shooter this time last year. And down 61% from the original Star Wars Battlefront in 2015. They are down about half. Now, a couple caveats to this.
People might actually be voting with their wallets.
No, there's more than that. These sales figures from the UK count only physical sales. For the past few years, we have been moving very quickly to digital. So anyone who is touting this specific article as an example of EA's imminent demise, take it with a grain of salt, despite what I just said. We don't know yet, and we won't know how well Battlefront 2 is doing for at least a couple more weeks, and then we can look at it to see if everyone collectively voicing their outrage at EA had any kind of effect. But it certainly doesn't look good, because a 61% drop in physical sales compared to Star Wars Battlefront in 2015, there's no way suddenly 61% of the people flipped their from physical to digital. I don't.
No.
I'm sure that the number
It's
of digital
probably a
sales has
decent number.
increased, but it ain't
Yeah.
61%. So yeah, one final cherry on the top, David. You're probably starting to get tired of this topic. I know I am, but one final cherry on the top of all this. As of today, Battlefront 2 on Metacritic currently sits at a 71 for user reviews, and a user review score.
You said user already. Please restate that for the playback track.
For the record,
It's a
71% for critic reviews, and a grand and glorious 0.8 for user reviews, which I think is the lowest I've ever seen a game on the user review side.
I've not even heard of something like less than 1, especially a big budget AAA game that just came out. And I know the internet can flood things sometimes, but the amount of people that have to show up to just throw zeros on this to get it down to a 0.8 is pretty astounding.
It's amazing. So yeah, Star Wars Battlefront 2. It is a train wreck, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it even next week as we start to kind of get first week sales and all that coming in. It'll be very interesting to see. And we're not the only people jumping on the hate train of this. There's been some other companies throwing shade about this one. David?
All right, that's me. Sorry, I'm talking to chat.
Yeah, I see you talking to chat.
Right.
I see it. I appreciate Real Pie Master. I do see what you're saying here, by the way. It's just a lot of it's kind of off topic at the moment, so I can't really directly respond to it. Though I will try to answer a couple questions toward the end.
No, that's what I'm for. That's fine. Okay, so jumping on other companies that are bandwagoning all over EA's face right now, we have Blizzard, who happily announced that StarCraft 2 is free to play. And yeah, you can just play that whole campaign. Now, it's not all of it, but they specifically had a tweet that said number of hours it takes to earn the full StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty campaign, 0. They then went on to say number of hours before you can play any co-op commander in StarCraft 2, 0. Number of pay-to-win mechanics in StarCraft 2, 0. Free-to-play edition now live.
Yeah, they were just throwing a shit ton of shade. And it's I always like it when I see even bigger publishers kind of smack-talking things out there. But none of them come nearly to being as savage as what CD Projekt Red said in a topic that wasn't even related.
I got to talk about the fact that this just makes me love CD Projekt Red even more.
Break it down for us, David.
All right, so I believe this was in a response to another thing where I think it was, what are they called? Pretty Good Gaming.
Yeah.
Had this article saying CD Projekt Red is considering games of a service for Cyberpunk 2077 as part of their drive to make it more commercially significant, in quotes. CD Projekt Red responded, "Worry not. When thinking Cyberpunk 2077, think nothing less than The Witcher 3. Huge, single-player, open-world, story-driven RPG. No hidden catch. You get what you pay for. No bullshit. Just honest gaming, like with Wild Hunt. We leave greed to others."
That last line right there is fucking fire. That's
my god.
That's beyond just like playful, like taunting. That is straight up saying that they don't mention them by name, but we all know they're talking about EA. That is like saying you are fucking horrible.
This tweet alone is worth the fucking 280 characters. if this had to be written without that final line, it's like, okay, yeah, CD Projekt Red's still pretty cool, but just throwing mad shade at EA, it's so fantastic.
We leave greed to others. That's you being called out, son.
Yeah, makes me want to buy Witcher 3 again.
Yeah, great game, by the way. I do recommend it.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
if you need another game to 100%, Witcher 3 has way too much content.
yeah, 169 hours I put into it. Didn't finish every single thing, and I haven't even touched the expansions. That
Yeah.
game is fucking long. David, let's
Wild
talk about
Hunt
some
is
other
bigger than
shit that.
most other games.
Let's talk about some shit that's not Battlefront.
All right, let's talk about the fact that Marvel Heroes is getting shut down.
It is over with and done.
I mean, I don't know how many people were playing Marvel Heroes. I haven't looked at their play count. I actually hadn't even thought about that game in quite a while. But their servers are officially shutting down December 31st, 2017. They're going to pull the real money purchases as soon as possible. Players will be able to play the game entirely for free once the sunset period commences. They don't know the exact date everything's going to go free, but it's shutting down.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
over
the
with and
official
done.
response from Gazillion.
This is because Marvel is choosing not to re-up their agreement with Gazillion. And this all makes sense. A lot of people saw this going from a mile away. They were like, hey, community posts aren't being updated. And for a while now, Disney has been trying to bring all their IPs back under their own umbrella. The twist to this story is Marvel Heroes Omega, which was the most recent iteration of this game, just came out on consoles a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So
and this is a game that has real money purchases in it.
Yep, you had a bunch of people spend some money on this, thinking that they'll get a couple years of gameplay out of it, and now, whoop, getting canceled.
Yeah,
all those
and a bunch of it's going to go free. So they just threw a bunch of money at a game that's going
bye bye.
They said everything is going away.
You spent let's say you spent like $5 to get Squirrel Girl or some shit like that, and then can't even play the game anymore. They're revoking the license. You've also seen a couple other Marvel properties disappearing lately, like Deadpool's no longer being able to bought on Steam. They're trying to bring all that shit back.
I forgot to buy that when it was on sale too. It's already gone, right?
Yeah, it's gone. I don't think it's on Steam anymore.
Damn it.
Marvel by Disney
is
pulling all their stuff back. So that's not good. We're gonna round out today's news because I'm starting to ramble. I'm just heated about the Battlefront thing still because I don't want to get into it. I got into it earlier. We have 2 bits of movie news to round out the day with. One, this is via CNN. A new Mario movie is in the works. Super Mario Bros., an anime movie, is in the works at Illumination Entertainment. According to the article, that Nintendo is close to a deal with Illumination Entertainment for an animated movie based on the popular video game franchise Super Mario Bros. CNN has confirmed. The deal, which was first reported by the Wall Street Journal, would bring one of the most familiar pop culture brands to theaters via Illumination Entertainment, which makes the animated films for Comcast Universal Pictures. The studio boosts a long streak of blockbuster hits such as Despicable Me, Minions, The Secret Life of Pets, and Sing. I'm sure we all recall the terrible, terrible live-action Mario movie back in the early 90s. This is not that. Thank God. Animated is the way to go with Mario, and it has been long enough since that train wreck that we can move on and grow. Plus, I like Despicable Me, so I'm kind of interested to see what they do with this.
I guess now's the time, right? Nintendo has a lot of Steam. I can't think of any good way to make a Switch pun right now. But they're just doing well. They have their main properties. You have Zelda, you have Mario, you have a traditional Metroid game just came out, so they're very, very fresh. And now's a good time for them to jump on this to get everybody who's riding that nostalgia train for Mario and for Nintendo to go out and spend some money on a 3D movie. I also really, really enjoy the fact that they just had a game that threw them together with the Rabbids, and we all know that Minions and Rabbids are the same fucking thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can literally just
partnering with
paint
the
them
Minion
yellow
guys to make a movie.
All right, David, why don't you talk about this next video game movie, because I need to save my energy for this one.
Oh, man. So this movie... I'm just going to piss you off. This movie looks fantastic. This is probably going to be the greatest gaming movie ever released in the history of all time. It stars The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and it is a movie based on the very popular, very current and hip arcade franchise Rampage. Yes, the old school arcade game where you played as giant monsters and crushed the hell out of buildings, ate people, and had all kinds of general merriment, is now a movie starring The Rock. and it's going to have giant monsters, and they're going to beat up buildings, which, as we all know, is the core gameplay of the movie and is the of the game. And it's the only thing that happens, right?
No.
Right, Steven?
No. Okay, the trailer looks all right. It looks like a stupid summer blockbuster movie, whatever it is. But fuck that. I don't care. Rampage has one fucking story point to it. They are humans that are turned into monsters. Not animals that get big like in this fucking trailer. How can you fuck this up? It's the one goddamn bit of lore in the whole fucking game, and you fucked it up. That's like making Mario like a lawyer instead of a goddamn plumber. You have one fucking job, Warner Brothers, and you fucked it up.
Nintendo recently announced that Mario is no longer a plumber.
Nintendo can suck my dick. I can't fucking believe that you... Listen, Rampage is the touching story about 3 humans thrust together by their unfortunate circumstances of giant monsterism and how they have to fucking overcome the prejudice of the United States military. But fucking no, they couldn't make that movie, could they? That'd take fucking the chimpanzee from Project X, fucking Lake Placid's crocodile, and the fucking direwolf from Game of Thrones. And throw them all together in some goddamn blender that Joel Schumacher and Michael Bay made.
Well, I mean, how else am I going to eat my popcorn? I don't want to think. I feel like you misunderstand summer blockbuster.
Fucking atrocious. How dare they fuck up the most simplest game plot of all time. Humans into monsters, not fucking animals into giant animals. That makes no sense. How can I relate to a 50-foot fucking ape eating people out of windows when in the game I could totally relate to a 50-foot human turned into an ape eating people out of windows? That's something I've always wanted to do. That's all I wanted from this movie. And they've taken away the fucking human element. So fuck this movie.
Man, you are the one person that's salty about this.
I guarantee you there's at least one more.
Oh, I guess it's 10%, right? 10% of the people that played Rampage give a shit about what you're talking about. Now, the more important thing is that this is a game. This is a movie that's vaguely based on a game and will overall be trash, but will probably do all right in China as long as they put any amount of it in China. All
right, David.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna go opening weekend. I'm gonna live stream
just to spite me.
Text you about it, just to spite you. I don't have any interest in seeing it, but it's gonna happen.
Normally, we'll do new releases right here, but I want to introduce our first segment of listener mail. We had a question pop up in chat that was completely off topic, but I want to address it anyways. Roll Pie Master sent this one in. He says the following. So I have a question that might take too long to answer, but I don't want to change the topic of the show. Which is why we're doing it here. Got no problem sending it here. If you do have questions or comments or concerns, please feel free to email GamePointsPC@gmail.com with the header questions for the show. And we'll do them between the news and new releases going on. So I just got a Platinum Trophy on Overwatch, and now I'm out of games to play 100%. I have 100%ed Fallout 3, 4, New Vegas, Neo, he says Noah, but I think he means Neo, the Japanese Dark Souls thing, and Dark Cloud 2. I also hate Persona 5.
Phenomenal game, by the way.
Yeah.
Fucking Dark Cloud 2.
I also hate Persona 5, and I'm trying to find a long game that can be beat in many ways. As you guys said, Shadow of War isn't good, and all my friends are telling me the PS4 player to get mods. Do you know of any games? Thanks for your feedback. So I'm assuming you have a PlayStation 4.
We can backtrack a little bit and not necessarily say that Shadow of War is a bad game.
If you're 100% it's going to be kind of tedious.
Yeah, that's the part that's going to be a pain in the ass.
Just stop when Act 4 starts and watch the 30-second teaser at the end. That's what I would say if you play that game. If you have a PlayStation 4 and you are looking for a game to 100% and you haven't played it yet, and you're looking because you can beat it many different ways and there's a couple different endings depending on what you do and there's a lot of explorability to it, get fucking Bloodborne. If you loved Neo, get Bloodborne. Hell, Neo even had a new expansion that comes out recently. I'd say go that route. Witcher 3, we were talking about that earlier. If you're looking for a
A game that you can
sprawling
put 200
epic
hours in?
RPG. You can easily put 200 hours into it. If you're looking for something smaller that you can stick a lot of time into it, like if you're looking for that $20 or less range, Darkest Dungeon. I fucking love that game, and that is out on the PlayStation 4. Same with Binding of Isaac. Binding of Isaac is
you are
roguelite.
distinctly omitting my Game of the Year contender, which I think is a lot of people Game of the Year contenders, and that's Horizon.
Horizon. If you want something this year, yes, Horizon is amazing. This is assuming you
the
have a
Ultimate
PlayStation
Edition
4.
of it actually comes out fairly soon. I think next week.
Yes, you can get both the base game and the expansion. I want to say that comes out December 7th. I am not positive on that. Maybe like December 5th or something. Sounds about right to me.
The crappy thing is I think it's back up to $50, but actually just a couple of weeks ago, the base game dropped down to $20 on Amazon.
Yeah.
So if you shop around, you can definitely find the base like launch version of Horizon Zero Dawn for $20.
If you have if you're talking about Xbox One, I don't think you are, because I don't think any of these games are on Xbox One. As far Neo, sure as hell wasn't. But if you're someone else and you have an Xbox One, you know what? If you're just looking for a good game that came out for that system that was exclusive to that system, I really enjoyed Halo Wars 2. If you're on the Switch, I mean, fucking any of the games they've released that's from first-party Nintendo, ranging from Mario and Zelda down to Splatoon. And if you're on PC, I mean, Jesus, your cup runneth over.
Yeah, just wait for a Steam sale.
Although, lately on PC, if you're looking for something right now to play that's not like $60, I am having a blast with Hand of Fate 2. So that's what I would look into. Also, regardless of what you own, Assassin's Creed Origins, surprisingly good game. It just barely misses out my top 5 games of this year so far. But it is a really good game and a nice change up for that formula. So I would recommend
also,
those.
If you haven't played an Assassin's Creed game in like 4 years, it looks really good.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks the same as the game like 2 games ago. 1 game? I don't even know anymore.
And you don't really even need
the broken one.
You don't even need to have knowledge of that game's lore. I don't even think the people who write those games know what's going on in that game anymore as far as the story goes. But the gameplay itself is fun. Ancient Egypt looks beautiful. Those are a few suggestions off the top of my head that if you like those kind of games, you might really enjoy that. Plus Darkest Dungeon, because I will always recommend that game if you're looking for something cheap.
I mean, if you're going to say Darkest Dungeon, I'm going to say Salt and Sanctuary, which is the 2D side-scrolling Dark Souls styled game. You do that all the time and it annoys me, but I'm just going to loosely throw out a game comparison to Dark Souls because of the games you can compare to it. It's not at all the same.
Yeah, from his list that he said
it's got that vague similarity that that's usually just enough for people to call it a Dark Souls mod.
From the list of games he says he's finished, though, I would recommend Bloodborne if you have not played that. If you love the Souls games and you haven't played Bloodborne, you are absolutely missing out. And The Witcher 3 if you're looking for another epic RPG that is just going to suck your life away. David, these are all games that are old, though. Old game is old.
Just wait, hold on.
Okay.
You mentioned Bloodborne, but we didn't talk about the fact that Dark Souls 3 is a game on PS4.
You're right. So Dark Souls 3 is absolutely a game on PS4.
Yes, and that game is really damn good. I mean, for me, I like the first one. I like the third one. The second one, it's okay. Just keep in mind that if you are super into Bloodborne, then the Dark Souls games will feel a little bit slower. But if you haven't played either, do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah.
God damn, I love Dark Souls so much.
And Horizon, if you want a nice open world, not RPG, but a nice open world game. Once again, we are assuming you have a PlayStation 4 because you really didn't tell us what system you had, but based on the games that you listed, I'm assuming PS4.
I'm assuming PS4 because you mentioned a platinum trophy.
Good point. Damn good point.
Yeah, I know how to read. Anyway.
All these are old games, though, David. To get back to my segue like I was going.
That are new.
What can I play this week? What's new this week that I can play?
Let's ride that segue to victory. For some damn reason, we need a VR fishing game that's based in the Final Fantasy 15 universe, and now is your time. So if you have a PlayStation VR, you can get Monsters of the Deep or Monster of the Deep, whatever.
This fishing game
Fantasy 15
is better than it has any business to be. It is way better than it has any business to be.
This is Square Enix's first VR game. and it's a Final Fantasy 15 based fishing game.
I almost want to call bullshit
also
on that,
a
but I
monster.
don't know it off the top of my head, so I'm going to let it go.
In which case, there's a monster fish that's, there's a boss. There's a boss monster. You're trying to catch the boss.
There's a boss bass?
Yes, there's a boss bass. It's the best boss bass.
Is it a pain in the ass?
Yes.
Do you have to go to a class to catch the boss bass that's a pain in the ass? So I can be served under glass?
But I've had enough of your sass, so we're going to continue on.
Am I going to feed it to Mama Cass?
I don't know how I mute him. Also coming out this week, Batman the Enemy Within, Episode 3, Fractured Mask. I have trouble saying games that start with fractured that don't end in butthole. But this is the next Telltale Batman game. It is Episode 3 for the Enemy Within series, so if you haven't played 1 or 2, probably don't play this one. If you've played a Telltale game before, you know exactly what's going on. If you have not played a Telltale game before, don't start with this one. That's
fair.
That fair? I mean, you can go get Episode 1 of the Batman series.
In fact, I would say get Season 1, Episode 1, because this is from Season 2.
Yeah. Or you can just wait for them to eventually build a new damn engine because they've just been releasing the same formula
well,
game.
Maybe. Keep in mind, they did just lay off, I want to say it was like 25% of their company. 90 people, if I recall.
That's true.
Maybe it was 10%. A lot. They laid off a good chunk of people.
Well, if you don't have VR or PC or PS4 or an Xbox and you have a Switch, man, lucky week for you. Gear Club comes out. Oh my god. I just have trouble talking about it. Gear Club is a iOS and Android phone racing game, and it's coming to the Switch.
Just do yourself a favor and get Rocket League.
Yeah, more importantly, Rocket League is a thing that exists on the Switch, and you can also play with the people on Xbox and PC, so it has a huge player base. Damn, I'm talking about an old game again. But it's still pretty new. Do you get a Mario Kart? Don't get Gear Club. It's a phone game on your Switch. You have better things to play on the Switch, I promise. Coming out this week for PC, World of Final Fantasy. This is the it's like the kind of classic style Final Fantasy game that released on PS4 recently. That's like a who's who greatest hits kind of.
Yeah, it's kind of chibi style too, if I recall.
Yeah, it's got a kind of cuter art style. It's got full on turn-based battles. So like I said, old school active time battle systems back. There's you can stack allied characters to get better stats. It's set in, I think, a completely different world. I don't think it's based in any of the other game worlds, but
yeah, it's its own thing.
Yeah, it's its own little thing, and it's on PC. A game that is not a sequel to the Ape Escape franchise. Planet of the Apes: Last Frontier hits PS4 this week. This is a, I guess, movie tie-in game. It just has nothing to do with the film.
I think this is a VR experience. Like it's supposed to be one of those VR experiences. I want to say this is the one that was done by Andy Serkis's production company. That's like a side story to the most recent Planet of the Apes movie. Apparently, it's decent. Caveat emptor. I haven't tried it myself.
This is also really working on bridging that gap between games and films. There's multiple endings based on what you do. There's 3 general endings, but there's a whole bunch of other stuff based on like who does what or what happens at the end. But it's a complete decision-making narrative game. So when I say game, that's pretty loose. It's a choose-your-own-adventure. It's about 3 hours long, and the entirety of what you do while playing this game is to make decisions. That's it. There's no puzzles. There's no exploration. There's no direct control over any of the characters. All you do is make decisions. So I want to make sure that that's clear. This isn't a game in a traditional sense. This is something a little bit different. It has story cues from the film. It's trying to be like morally ambiguous, so there's not like a hero and villain like that's easily cast. Everything's kind of like gray decisions. But like I said, it's all decisions. That's all you get. And finally, rounding out this list is Battle Chef Brigade for Switch, which, of everything that we've talked about, I think is the coolest looking game on the list.
Yeah, it definitely is.
It is
came out today, I believe.
It's a cooking game, which is like 1 part puzzle, 1 part kind of like action platformer. You you fight monsters that show up because you are the child of these like super famous chefs, and you're playing Iron Chef more or less, but monsters attack, and you kill the monsters, and you make food out of them.
Sounds delicious.
Oh man, it looks pretty funny. It's a chef anime game, I guess, if you need that in you. And that'll about do it. I got nothing else. It's towards the end of the year. I mean, it's
Yeah, we're going to start slowing down dramatically on game releases. It's going to be kind of not fully dead, but slowed down until February of next year.
There's still a couple things coming out, so
yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles is around the corner. Or Xenoblade 2. Is it Xenoblade Chronicles 2? Xenoblade 2? Xenoblade...
But compared to next month, January is going to be insane.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you, David, for letting us know what's coming up, and thank everyone for watching. That is going to bring an end to GamePoints episode 113. As always, we do stream here live at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at twitch.tv/GamePoints. But if you can't watch us live, please feel free to watch us on YouTube. Just type in GamePoints one word. We should pop right up there. Regardless of where you watch us, feel free to chat, comment, like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. We do try to interact with everyone who shows up during our live shows or in the YouTube comments. I mean, the tagline is join the conversation. If you do like what you've seen here, you can follow the show on Twitter at GamePoints PC. You can follow us individually. I'm your host, Steven Brown, at CapitalistPig21. You can follow David at Palshife_Satori. And if you have any questions or comments you can't ask live, but you want to get into the show, you can email them to GamePointsPC@gmail.com. And we'll try to work them in between the news and the new releases. I think that'll be a nice little news segment what we have on there. Anyways, this has been GamePoints 113. And until next week, we're out of here.